What's up, guys? Today we are doing something a little different. We're talking about rubber tips in Beyblade X. So some people have been talking about these for a while. I don't think we need rubber flat. I don't think that that's necessary. I don't think it would really add anything. I don't think rubber offensive tips are necessary for X. I think they would probably be worse than just the standard flat tips or aggro tips that we've got already. But for defense, I do think we need some rubber tips, just because defense is not really as big a thing. Not to say that defense combos don't exist, but really like true defensive tips or bits don't really exist yet. So we've got needle, we've got high needle. They're not really defensive bits. Functionally, they're just like in any other generation, those bits would probably be bad. Needle is just historically just not a very good tip for anything. You know, from plastic gen to metal fight to burst, like needle tips are just not typically used for anything. It's just, you know, those were the options that we've had, so people use them. But I do think in terms of like true defensive bits, I would like to see something like RSF, which is like a semi-flat, or rubber ball. Even something like RDF, I think, could potentially be good, which is sort of like a very thin, sort of flat bit. Functionally, it works more like a defense bit. I think it might be classified as an attack tip in Metal Fight. I'm actually not 100% sure, but it's typically used for defensive builds. So something like that, or even something like CS, I think could work pretty well. So they don't need to necessarily make this whole bit rubber. They don't need to make these gears rubber. They can literally just make the tip of it rubber, and I think that would be fine. So we're just gonna throw it in here. I've got Libra on 230 rubber ball. I don't expect this to win just because of the way the weight distribution works, but we're sort of looking how a rubber defensive tip functions against X. In terms of like whether or not it would make a difference, just because X like is way faster. Will rubber defensive tips like actually functionally really make too much of a difference? I don't know. We're gonna find out. So it is worth mentioning that the Beyblade X launchers are quite a bit stronger than the Metal Fight launchers. I chose 230 just to make sure that they were relatively around the same height. Otherwise, like, a lower height Metal Fight would just be making contact with the ratchet. So yeah, rubber ball seems to work pretty well. Let's try RSF and see how that does. Kind of similar, but it's gonna have, I think, probably maybe a little bit better stamina. I'm not, just because less surface area for the rubber. So we'll try this. I don't think it'll make a huge difference. I think once we get rubber tips for X, especially defensive tips, I think that's going to change the game a lot. A lot of people are concerned that like they're going to wear out really fast, but I don't know that that's necessarily going to be the case. As long as like the actual gear part isn't rubber and it's just the tip that's rubber, I think it'll be fine. Now, rubber like attack bits probably will wear out faster, just because of how much faster the Beyblades are spinning, but I really don't think it'd be that big of an issue. They can always use a harder rubber as well. Doesn't have to be super soft. let's try something a little more aggressive. So this is Shark on Rush, and see how it does. So a lot of people might be concerned about like rubber tips potentially breaking attack types, but I just want to remind everybody that there's supposed to be sort of a rock, paper, scissors thing with Beyblade. So like attack beats stamina, stamina beats defense. So if we were to put Hell Scythe up against this on ball, for example, I think it would do quite a bit better. So I really want a stamina finish. But yeah, I think ultimately rubber tips would be good for the game in terms of defense. Like I said, I don't think it would be great for like attack bits. I don't really know that they would serve a whole lot of purpose, but yeah, I think defensive tips would be good. So that is a Hell Scythe win there. So yeah, I'm kind of interested to know everybody's thoughts. Do you want rubber defensive tips, rubber attack tips? You know, there's a lot of gimmicks that we have yet to get. I mean, we could potentially get bearing tips in the future. There's a lot of different stuff that they could do. They're not strictly limited to, you know, sort of this size. They could enlarge this base as much as they wanted. It would add, you know, weight, probably burst easier, but they could expand this part out. As long as they have this part right here that would fit into the ratchet, then that's really all they need. Now, obviously, like, you know, the wider it is, the more that's going to change sort of the gear ratio, but that, you know, that could just be part of the gimmick. It would move, move quite a bit slower, but, you know, I think it would be interesting. So let me know down in the comments what your guys' thoughts are on rubber tips in general, whether or not you want them in X, and what you're looking forward to in terms of like parts that we have yet to see in X.